Breathe, dragons. Sing of the first world, scattered in infinite seedling realities. Sing of Behemoth and Tiamat, watching its sundering, mourning their labor. Sing too of Sarador, sundered, consciousness scattered in minuscule fragments. Breathe, dragons. You are the inheritors, ruling the wreck of the first world's destruction. That was an excerpt from the Elegy of the First World poem that came to us in the 5th edition book Fizban's Treasury of Dragons. The Elegy of the First World narrates the story of the creation of the First World, a world that existed before the many worlds of the prime material plane were created by the gods and other divine beings. According to the poem, it was the dragon gods Behemoth and Tiamat who worked together to create the first world. After finishing their work, Behemoth and Tiamat then created the firstborn of dragonkind, those that were to be the intended inhabitants of the first world, the metallic, and more importantly for our tale, the chromatic dragons. In the modern age of D&D, Tiamat is known as the goddess of greed, the ancient dragon, the queen of chaos, and the elemental destruction. What Tiamat is most known for, however, is being the queen of the chromatic dragons. Although similar in appearance to a hydra, though I would never dare to call her one, Tiamat uniquely has one head for each of the known chromatic dragon species that hunt through the many worlds of Dungeons & Dragons to this day. Green, blue, red, white, and black. Yet there is a mystery with regards to the chromatic breeds, the missing colors. Now, when it comes to colors, just look at a rainbow. You can think of a lot more colors that would show up before black and white. What about orange, or yellow, or even purple? The brilliant dragon, the energy dragon, the deep dragon. Let's talk about the purple dragons. So, what are we going to be covering? In this episode, first, we're going to talk about what a purple dragon is. Next, we'll dive into the origins of these lost chromatic dragons and see where they could have come from. After that, we'll explore how I rebuilt the purple dragon for the 2024 edition of D&D and how they fare in combat. We'll close out then with some ideas about how to add the purple dragon not only as a monster of the week, but as a part of an ongoing campaign. Before we actually start discussing the purple dragons, I want to start more with where such dragons could have come from in the first place. Of all the known chromatics, there are 5 of them that trace their origins back to the dragon goddess Tiamat: red, black, blue, green, and white. Besides the heaps of lore, history, and mythology, the largest clue to their shared origin is with Tiamat herself and her 5 heads. Quite literally, each of Tiamat's heads resembles one of the 5 chromatic dragons. Not just the color, but the shape and design that is unique to each of the dragon breeds. Tiamat is also one of the reasons most doubt the existence of the missing chromatics. After all, if the purple dragon existed, Tiamat herself should be a pretty big clue. Yet there is no purple head on the dragon goddess. That's why most think that the myths and legends of the purple dragons are just that. But what if these legends were true? What if purple dragons were real? Where would they come from if not Tiamat? According to what information we do have on the missing chromatic dragons, there are some scholars that believe Tiamat once had a sister. This isn't an idle guess of the existence of a second multi-headed dragon goddess either. Tiamat's sister was actually briefly mentioned in Dragon Magazine 248, described as arrayed with heads of yellow, orange, purple, and other crossbreed colors. Now, such a thing as having a sister is not an impossibility, since most legends of the dragon goddess do in fact give her family members. Io, the world shaper and dragon deity of creation, is said to be the progenitor of Tiamat. The platinum dragon god Behemoth is her brother and currently the entity Tiamat hates the most. Finally, possibly the dragon god Null is also said to be her brother. Thus, Tiamat having a sister doesn't seem like such a far-fetched possibility. Given how different Behemoth is to Tiamat, metallics versus chromatics, I lean towards the idea that Tiamat had a twin sister. Perhaps this twin sister contained the other half of the missing chromatic spectrum. This theory goes that this unnamed dragon was like Tiamat with multiple heads made of the missing colors: yellow, orange, purple, with brown and gray being the other crossbred colors. Like Tiamat, the unnamed sister was the progenitor / god / sovereign of these rarely, if ever seen, dragon breeds. Given we have no idea the name of this goddess, one can only imagine that their relationship with Tiamat was, well, let's say turbulent. Turbulent's probably the best way of putting it. Deicide is probably the correct way of putting it, though. Also, given the lack of a name, the twin wasn't around for very long. What exactly was the triggering event would be a fantastic story, because we have absolutely no idea. At some point, the two sisters lived together until Tiamat tore her twin apart, probably for some slight or a battle for dominance. I lean towards pettiness for a couple of reasons. The first being that pettiness is basically the modus operandi for more than a few of the chromatic dragons. The more important reason, however, was that if it was for a battle for dominance or control, Tiamat would have devoured and taken over the entirety of the chromatic spectrum. One of the reasons that gods will battle each other is to gain control of another god's domain, especially if they have similar domains or portfolios. Instead, if these missing chromatics are at best legends to most people, I see that there was utter contempt for their slain goddess and the dragons that she sired by Tiamat. Yet, the purple dragons live on. The purple dragon first debuted in the Dragon Magazine 65 alongside the yellow and orange dragons in the article The Missing Dragons. In the source material, the purple dragons were described as a secondary chromatic, a subspecies of a dragon created by the crossbreeding of red and blue dragons. As these were the two most powerful chromatic dragons, the purple dragon is the most powerful of the so-called missing chromatics. The purple dragon was updated in the second edition, becoming known as energy dragons. Still thought to be a product of red and blue dragon crossbreeding, it was second edition where the idea of Tiamat and her Sorcide sister came into being. Energy dragons were characterized as being the most sinister, evil, and sadistic of the chromatics, which really is saying something. Favoring deep caverns and underdark layers like their first edition counterparts, the energy dragons preferred to emerge from the depths to hunt the prairies, the plains, and the low foothills, preferably at night or in the middle of a thunderstorm, to amplify the terror of their raids, especially when they fire their plasma-like breath attack. Now, 4th edition had deep dragons, which are sort of similar to purple dragons, but really those similarities are superficial at best. Those similarities being they both live in Underdark and they both have dark scales. Their breath weapons were completely different, which is why I don't count them as purple dragons. Now, 2024 5th edition did bring out deep dragons with the adventures in Faerun that sort of resemble purple dragons, but it's a close, no cigar situation. So, let's bring the purple dragons to the current edition. So, what are purple dragons? What sets them apart from the rest of the chromatics? Also known as deep dragons in the past. Although, remember, not all deep dragons are purple dragons. Purple dragons are rare and can actually be mistaken for black dragons. It's not hard to see why. With hellish red eyes and a pair of off-white horns, purple dragons have essentially black curved spikes that run from the base of their skull down their long and lean body to the tip of their tail, which helps them resemble black dragons to a degree. To confuse matters even worse, initially a purple dragon's scales are mostly a deep purple, but as the dragon ages, their scales fade to a midnight black. Being one of the missing chromatics, most mortals have no knowledge of the existence of purple dragons. Who can really say whether a dragon's scales are purple or black as it's trying to devour you? All chromatic dragons are evil to one degree or another, but as with everything, purple dragons have to be the best at it. Purple dragons are described as deeply, sadistically evil. That fear aura of theirs isn't for show, nor their only means. Purple dragons are terror raiders, combining raids for food with outright destruction and mayhem, using the night sky and their purple, blackish scales to hide until the time comes to unleash utter devastation. Unlike their metallic cousins, the chromatic dragons are too chaotic and too independent to follow a proper hierarchy unless Tiamat herself or her chosen servants become involved. Any hierarchy amongst the chromatics is basically whoever is the biggest, toughest, and bites the hardest, that's the one that's going to be on top. There are scenarios where clever dragons can gain the upper claw, but when something is double your weight and can fire a beam or cone of pure elemental energy, typically they're the one that can make the rules. In terms of power, red dragons are traditionally thought as strong enough to overpower any other dragon and can win any one-on-one fight. Purple dragons tend to disagree with this. Exceptionally arrogant and vain, purple dragons believe themselves to be the rightful lords of all dragonkind, whether chromatic, metallic, or gem. While other chromatic dragons tend to keep to their own unless another invades their territory, purple dragons will actually actively seek out other dragons to defeat them in battle and prove their superiority. That there is the key personality trait with purple dragons: superiority. That there is the key personality trait when it comes to purple dragons: superiority. With only the reds rivaling them with strength and size, purple dragons have another additional reason to believe themselves superior, because they are amongst the smartest of the chromatic dragons. With their mighty intellect and superiority complex, purple dragons will attempt to conquer any who are unfortunate enough to cross their path. It'll still kill you out of claw, but a living servant is better than a dead one. Also, why make one person at a time know you're better than them when you can make an entire realm understand? Kingdoms will commonly fall to purple dragons, demolishing the ruling royalty and their armies and then taking the crown for their own scaly head. Interestingly, the purple dragon's need to be superior can actually be beneficial to the new state. Their arrogance certainly would not allow their kingdom to be anything less than grand. While certainly not safe, the citizens of a purple dragon's rule can find themselves under a stronger economy with superior laws that just overall runs better than it was under the formal mortal rule. As much as purple dragons enjoy controlling other creatures, their true enjoyment in life comes from the thrill of exploration. Red dragons love their gold, black dragons love to be jerks, and purple dragons love exploration, especially that which leads deeper into the earth. The surface world simply isn't that interesting to purple dragons. All the new lands and oceans discovered by explorers are a drop in the bucket compared to what the world contains below. Purple dragons consider a globe's surface a paltry expanse compared to the depths of the world's interior, which is why they prefer to lair in the Underdark. Below is a vast space containing orders of magnitude more possibilities and mysteries, both long forgotten and never known for the purple dragons to discover. Mechanically, one of the changes I like that was brought about with the 5th edition of D&D is for certain creatures, such as dragons, they get what's known as layer actions and regional effects. The worlds of D&D are absolutely chock full of monsters, but the really important monsters affect the world around them, their presence and actions sometimes literally warping the landscape and the people that live nearby. When D&D updated to the 2024 edition, the two actions were merged into layer effects, codifying and giving mechanics to the changes to the world. The new layer effects I find are a great way to build up the threat of a monster, to reflect how the world changes with the long-term presence of such creatures, warping the terrain and reality miles around the layer, announcing that a dragon is nearby. As such, these are the first mechanics I want to get into to really set the tone of the purple dragon. Purple dragons typically make their lairs in caves, caverns, subterranean vaults, and other underdark regions, where they love to roam about looking for their next discovery. A purple dragon's permanent lair is typically a honeycomb of rocky hollows connected by narrow, winding tunnels so the dragon can take full advantage of its flight and stealthy scales. Cleverly, many of these tunnels will lead to dead ends or traps or require real skill for someone to make their way through. Sometimes purple dragons will make their lairs in the structures of previous Underdark residents, if the interconnecting chambers are so elaborate or big enough for the dragon's taste. It actually sort of reminds me of beholders to a degree. Brilliant monsters taking advantage of lairs that allow them to confuse their enemies and abuse their ability to fly. I could imagine an abandoned beholder lair being a great lair for a purple dragon, especially if the setup confuses the would-be beholder slayers about what is actually flying around in that cavern. Yet, unlike all other dragons, the lair of a purple dragon mostly serves as a base of operations. A purple dragon rarely stays in its lair. After all, how could it explore and show others how much better it is than them by just hanging out at home? Thus, they can stray from their permanent lairs for great lengths of time. I can actually picture purple dragons having a primary lair and a multitude of secondary lairs, particularly in the homes of a notable defeated foe. For purple dragons that conquer a kingdom, I could see them having a lair within the capital city itself, maybe even carving out the local castle or palace that it took over. Now, looking at possible lair effects for the purple dragon, purple dragons typically want to make their lairs in those honeycomb caves, caverns, vaults, somewhere in the Underdark. All that says to me, it wants actions that will mess with the invaders and allow the dragon to split and isolate adventurers so it can ambush them. What's better for isolating invaders than darkness? Especially darkness that allows the purple dragon to take advantage of its dark scales. Also making travel to the lair difficult, so it gives the purple dragon plenty of time to set up defenses and observe its opponents for weaknesses. I thought stealing the black dragon's lair action wholesale with a name change made perfect sense, given how the two dragons can be mistaken. Perhaps an adventuring party thinks they're seeing signs of a black dragon in the world and are wholly unprepared for the wrath of a purple dragon. As for its remaining lair action, this one did take me a little bit longer to figure out. I wanted to keep with the divide and conquer mentality, but I didn't want to do another stealth feature. Purple dragons in previous editions had several spell-like abilities, so I thought they could be a source of inspiration. One that fits the bill is Pyrotechnics. Pyrotechnics is a 2014 5e spell that is yet to be updated to 2024. The effect is basically exploding display of light that is bright enough to blind a target. Yet, instead of just another way to blind people, I thought the lair action could enhance the purple dragon's couple of abilities that already blind targets, like how seeing a bright light at night can momentarily blind people. What I really like about this, even though it is a negative effect, it is one that the players can play with. Of course, that means they're going to be surrounded by light in an otherwise dark dragon lair, but you chose to go into that cave at some point, so that's kind of on you. Now, how can the purple dragon personally kill you? Like with most dragons, the answer is quite painfully. Thankfully, spellcasting has officially returned to dragons for the 2024 edition. No longer a variant rule, but baked right into the very mechanics of the dragon and its actions. Way back when, purple dragons did have a range of spells, but the overall theme at first appeared to be a random collection of spells. I guess it's hard to build a theme around plasma and bright light compared to something like fire or lightning or acid. However, I think I found it. And here it is. As always, when it comes to purple dragons, to show why purple dragons are better than you. Frightful Presence is gone as an overall dragon ability. Not all of them have it anymore. Now, it's either entirely gone from the stat block, replaced by a dragon casting Fear, or, in the red dragon's case, replaced by the command spell. Purple dragons love spreading terror, so originally I was going to go with the Fear spell like the black dragon. What gave me pause was the red dragon and its command spell. When using command, a caster has a bunch of options. Approach to force them to move towards you. Flee to make them run away. Grovel so they'll bow to you. It was actually the grovel part of the command spell that sold me on the spell. That just screams purple dragon. A spell that makes other people quite literally grovel to them? Sold. Plus other equally thematic effects that include a fear-like feature. This spell is absolutely perfect for the purple dragon. While not listed on the original purple dragon spell list, all 2024 dragons get detect magic, so I thought the purple dragon should get it as well. I also think it would be a useful spell for when the purple dragon is out exploring the world, detect magic revealing interesting things for the dragon to explore. While its lair actions provide some crowd control, as well as part of its breath weapon, I like Gust of Wind on the purple dragon's spell list for crowd control and to put enemies in their place. That place being in a cone in front of the dragon, or shoved off a cliff, or separating them into different tunnels of the lair, or back into dim light so they have disadvantage on their next blindness saving throw, or getting that pesky wizard into teeth range. Another purple dragon original spell, Heat Metal, honestly was the only one that stood out as to why. Why was this one on the spell list? I mean, don't get me wrong, I like the spell. Dragon Slayers wearing heavy plate armor is thematic, appropriate, and the best target for the spell, turning their advantage into a painful, burning disadvantage. See, that fits the purple dragon. Oh, you brought armor to protect yourself? Well, now that armor's going to kill you. Or that fancy sword that you keep holding. Another reason why I think this spell fits the purple dragon is when I thought about their breath weapon. Plasma. Plasma torch. Welding. The dragon is superheating the armor like it was welding with a plasma torch. That makes the spell even more horrific to think about. Again, perfect. An Ancient Purple Dragon exclusive, I added Scrying to the spell list for a couple of reasons. First off, the blue dragon had it, and I think it's a spell that a smart dragon would develop, and the purple dragon is smart. Second, it makes sense that a purple dragon of their age would have a large fiefdom and need a way to keep an eye on it, especially when it's out exploring, or if it just stays in its lair but it needs to keep an eye on its servants to make sure they remain loyal. Third, purple dragons do actively go looking for fights, so the ability to find something big and powerful to fight makes sense. Finally, when I was trying to come up with a big once-a-day spell for the purple dragon, there's not really a big force spell like there is like Fireball for the red dragon, and I didn't think an upcasted magic missile really fit the bill. I wanted something that players would be dreading and would have to prepare for, something that could really turn the tide if it hit. It occurred to me as I was really diving into the purple dragon and working on its mechanics, it really only had one way of causing blindness with its breath weapon. In the end, blindness/deafness spell, that fit what I was looking for, especially with the ability to upcast it to hit more targets. Purple dragons are about on par in terms of physical strength with a red dragon, so they are amongst the strongest of dragons. In addition, purple dragons are the smartest of dragons, surpassing all the other chromatics in terms of intelligence. Thus, they are both nerd and jock. Movement-wise, the purple dragon can fly, run, and burrow thanks to its preferred environment of the Underdark. Defensively, they're a dragon, though they are uniquely immune to force damage, a very, very rare damage immunity. As to why, most dragons are immune to their own breath weapon, and so purple dragons are immune to theirs. We'll get to the breath weapon shortly. With the Nightflyer trait, the purple dragon's purple, sometimes black, scales allow it to blend in with the night sky, granting advantage on stealth rolls while flying at night. Perfect for ambushes. In terms of physical pain that they can unleash, they have the standard assortment of teeth, claws, and tail to rip apart their enemy. In 2024, this was all bundled up into the Rend attack. Finally, the purple dragon can swap one of its multi-attack attacks to cast command. Utterly perfect for the purple dragon to force others to acknowledge its superiority by groveling or running away in the middle of a fight as often as possible. Being legendary monsters, once they get old enough, purple dragons have legendary actions. A lot of other dragon legendary actions tend to have them cast a spell or two that normally isn't worth burning their normal action, which fits the purple dragon perfectly. I would much rather have it multi-attack or use its breath weapon than cast heat metal or gust of wind. Useful spells, but not in comparison to what a purple dragon can and normally should be doing during its turn. By using legendary actions, we can keep both of them from becoming dead spells on the purple dragon's spell list. I would much rather them be a legendary action to hit the heavily armored paladin or fighter with a plasma torch and start them on fire versus casting it when the dragon could be using breath weapon, for example. I would rather it use a legendary action to cast Gust of Wind to get its enemies where the purple dragon wants them for its normal action, such as breath weapon. Then finally, as with all dragons, the purple dragon can move and attack something as a legendary action. Clean and simple. Yet, no talk of a dragon can be complete without first talking about its breath weapon, and the purple dragon has a particularly vicious one. In previous editions, a purple dragon's breath weapon was considered a fusion of blue dragon's lightning and red dragon's fire, becoming what we might call plasma. Plasma being one of the 4 traditional states of matter, a step up from gas where electrons become highly energized, and fictionally, when weaponized plasma delivers damage to a target, it's with enormous heat and electricity. Now imagine a dragon that can breathe pure plasma at its target, hotter than either fire or lightning. In fact, so impressive was its breath, it was said to be composed of pure magical energy. That's why I went with force damage as the breath weapon's element. The dangers of the breath doesn't actually end with the potent damage type either, but rather how it manifests, because the purple dragon actually has options fitting the genius apex predator. Uniquely for a chromatic dragon, a purple dragon's breath can take on 3 different forms: a cone of searing energy, a burst of blinding power, or a deadly blade of pure energy. First is the traditional raw damage cone breath, the purple dragon's breath weapon dealing as much damage as any other dragon of its age, although once again as force damage. A classic breath weapon useful for killing or spacing out small groups of very dangerous enemies. Second is the burst breath. The purple dragon opened its mouth to emit a blinding flash. All creatures within the ability's radius have to make a very hard save or they become temporarily blinded. Like a giant flashbang that can fly with teeth and claws, useful for hindering large groups of enemies. Finally, and the breath weapon I think is the coolest of the three, is the energy blade. It is quite literally the purple dragon manifesting a massive magical blade in its mouth. And that just fills me with delight. Once the blade is firmly within its teeth, the purple dragon can then use it to cut a path through its enemies. Now, here's the question. Why attacking melee with a magical blade instead of its claws or teeth? Why choose it instead of, the cone breath weapon or the blinding flash? Now, why I feel like I don't have to explain RP-wise why attacking with a giant glowing magical blade is the best option, mechanically, the blade both hits harder than its melee attacks, although this is because of the energy nature of the blade. The dragon doesn't utilize its strength for additional damage, but it gets more dice to throw. And that it was made of force damage, allowing it to bypass the much easier resistances of piercing and slashing that might occur, making it useful for very single, very hardy targets. There is but one word that describes everything and anything to do with the purple dragon that especially applies in combat: superiority. With their need to prove themselves superior and being second only to reds in terms of physical prowess, purple dragons relish a fight and actively go looking for it. Purple dragons are actually one of the few dragons that are likely to go hunt an adventuring party, looking to take out a well-known group of adventurers to raise its own reputation. That doesn't mean they're going to be stupid about a fight. Quite opposite, in fact. Keep in mind, they're very smart, smarter than most other dragons, so purple dragons will bring the full weight of their intellects to bear against their enemy or prey. And that begins with how they hunt, trying to get the advantage if they can. Purple dragons prefer to strike at night, using their natural coloration and night flyer trait to fly across a black sky or dark cavern unnoticed until they find a suitable target and then sweep in for a surprise attack. Once the fight starts, a purple dragon should be able to easily identify a party's weak link and what it takes to break them away from the party, using their superior cunning and mobility, as well as an array of spells, most of which can be cast either part of its normal action if need be, or ideally as legendary actions. Perhaps using Gust of Wind to blow the group away from each other, or command them to run away. Every moment in a fight, a purple dragon should be trying to get the advantage over their opponents, leading them into traps or getting them into positions for something horrific. When it comes to their action, a purple dragon should be using the breath weapon in whatever form is best to take out its chosen target, or if need be, engage like most other dragons with the whole claw and bite routine, which is of little comfort considering how formidable the creature is. While reds are arrogant and will likely fight to the death, I think purple dragons will take more after blues with their high intelligence, smart enough to back off and reconsider a fight that is not going their way. Not for too long though. I think losing a fight would just drive the purple dragon to find those that defeated it so it can decimate them. Not just beat them, but utterly defeat them, so there's no question that the purple dragon is better than them. Besides all the traditional storytelling options that all dragons offer a storyteller, I think purple dragons have some really neat built-in stories. One story idea could be playing up the lack of knowledge of purple dragons. A party could be hired to take out a black dragon that is raiding the countryside, but as they hunt the beast, more and more of what they discover doesn't quite match up with black dragons. You could play around with expectations. Initially it's thought to be a black dragon, but then the party discovers witnesses who saw the dragon emit a bright light. So maybe it's a blue dragon? But then another group swears they saw a dragon wreck a building with claws that only a mighty red dragon could do. Perhaps there's no swamp nearby, the traditional home of a black dragon, and instead I guess this dragon has moved underground? You can keep them guessing between the three types of dragons, unsure of who they'll be facing as they finally track it down, but no matter who they think it is, they will be in for utter shock when the dragon before them is purple. Perhaps the story of Tiamat's twin is true, torn asunder by Tiamat. Yet, the missing chromatic dragons still exist, if extremely rare. Yet, not rare enough for Tiamat thanks to whatever offended the dragon goddess. The party can need something from a chromatic dragon, or perhaps they need to steal something and they get caught. So instead of duking it out, the dragon demands that they slay one of the cursed or treacherous chromatics. Purple dragons being so dangerous, the dragon doesn't want to do it themselves, but knows that slaying one will really appease Tiamat. So why not get a very expendable adventuring party to do the deed? Even better, when they come face to face with the mighty purple dragon, it makes a counteroffer. Help the purple dragon kill that chromatic, and the magical tidbit they want is theirs. So, what deal will the party end up taking? Another story idea could be about the party finding themselves in a kingdom that has just fallen to a purple dragon and has been hired by the former rulers to take it back. The party could do just that, the capital city serving as a mega dungeon of sorts in order to get to the castle where the purple is making their lair. Or, to throw a little intrigue in there, perhaps the party discovers that the kingdom is better off under the tyrannical dragon than the tyrannical mortal. After all, a purple dragon needs to show its superiority, and its administration runs the kingdom far better than the greedy or warlike king ever could. Does the party still help the old king? Or does it help the purple dragon? If you're looking for an adventure that's a bit more epic in scope, we can take a page out of Tiamat's own book. Literally in this case, The Rise of Tiamat. Tiamat's sister was killed, but the corpse of something that powerful doesn't just disappear. Perhaps it's still in the material plane, or, following the adventurer's example, perhaps it's on another plane. You really could just follow the same basic plot of Rise of Tiamat, save being even more dangerous since the cult is following strange dragons that no one's ever heard about before. And then those chromatic dragons, never seen before, start showing up. A purple dragon, powerful and pompous like they all are, could be the leader of such a movement, believing themselves to be the one to raise their dead goddess up, or, perhaps even more arrogantly, think they will be the one to take the place as the new multi-headed dragon goddess. Being the namesake of D&D, dragons are one of, if not the most fleshed-out monster in the book. Yet, there is still unknown lore to plumb, and that's what purple dragons bring to the table, on top of being arrogant beyond measure, and being a threat both physically and mentally, and having a Swiss Army knife of a breath weapon. What I love about purple dragons is the mystery behind them, what its very existence implies about the great story of the world and its cosmology. Also, it's a dragon that can shoot pure energy or wield it like a sword between its teeth. Dragons are without a doubt my favorite mythological creature of all time. No matter what game, no matter what world, dragons to me are the best. While reds capture my heart, there is something about purple dragons that finds a place there too. Hopefully without needing to rip it out first though. In the description below, I have a link to a monster stat block for the purple dragon updated to the 2024 edition of Dungeons & Dragons, ready for you to unleash upon your players. Now, as we are a growing channel, if you found this interesting, please leave a like and a subscribe for all our future videos. It really does mean the world. Let me thank all of you for your time, and wishing you all the best until we meet again for our next monster.